Hello everyone, my name is Chris. You can find me on my socials as the Baba Duchess. I am a part-time amateur movie critic and horror blogger and a full-time drive-in mutant, and this is my horror channel. And are you all ready for Halloween? Oh, it's not even close. Okay, even better, because today's video I'm going to be talking about witches, because if everything goes according to plan and I get this video out when I want to, tonight is Witches Night. You can also think of it as second Halloween. I know I like to. So I thought it would be a good time to just talk about some good old-fashioned witch movies. The great thing about this subgenre is you can really do so much with it, as we have seen by just how many witch movies there are and how many different types of stories you can tell with witches. You can either be looking at it from the witch's perspective or not. You can use it to criticize social aspects. I've always had a fascination with the real life Salem witch trials ever since I read The Crucible, and I think in like 10th grade. I think because even at the time it struck me that society always kind of needs a boogeyman. And sometimes it has real world consequences, like when they go after certain groups, like with the Salem witch trials, it was women, especially women who maybe had some knowledge or lived alone or just didn't otherwise fit the societal norms of the time. And sometimes it's just silly, like when the evening news makes up a thing like, is your kid fleep flooping? Find out what fleep flooping is tonight at 11. You better know, because if you don't, your kids are going to get all messed up and it's going to be all your fault. They're always timely and relevant, but it's also a genre that you can do a lot with. I'm not going to get too deep in the weeds about history here, but I will share a little bit with you about Witches Night, which is also called Walpurgisnacht. Now, I didn't even know about this until like maybe 3-4 years ago. I am a big fan of The Last Drive-In with Joe Bob Briggs. Every year around this time, he will have an episode celebrating Walpurgisnacht where we'll watch witch movies. And in doing so, we learn a lot about their traditions, about what's behind it, how it came about. So I will put some graphics up and just ramble for a little bit, but I'm not going to get too much into the weeds about that. But Walpurgisnacht is named after Saint Walpurga. Her feast day is on May 1st, but the night before, that is said when witches are about. And it's also said, at least in pagan terms, that is when the veil between the living and the other side is thin, just like on Halloween, or Samhain, as it's also called in the pagan culture. So this is a night where the witches take flight. They go up to the mountains in Germany, but the townspeople are building bonfires, they're drinking, they're partying, they're warding away the evil spirits, but they're also having fun. And the next day is the feast day of Saint Walpurga, who is said to keep people safe at night from the witches. She's also a patron saint of healing. But that is how the two are connected. It's the night before May Day, or Beltane. So we have witches celebrating, the townspeople partying / warding them off, and then in the morning we celebrate the saint who protects them and heals them. That's a very brief overview. I think most everyone's first encounter with witches and any of kind of the basic lore around them would be The Wizard of Oz. The funny thing for me is I know that the Wicked Witch scared a lot of us as kids. She never scared me. I was more scared at the scene where the lion like jumps out of the window after he runs from the wizard. I don't know why that is. It just scared the crap out of me. But for most people, it was the witch or the monkeys because they were kind of freaky looking. But she fits the bill of kind of the typical witch villain trying to hurt the main protagonist, hunting her and her friends. She's got the broom. She's got some magic powers. She can conjure fire. So like I said, for most of us, that's kind of where we started. But I'd like to mention a few here that even if you've heard of, maybe you haven't seen, and also some more popular ones. It's, again, like I said, it's what I like about the genre, where you can do anything with it. Recently, I saw the movie Haxan, which it's from 1922. It's a silent film from Scandinavia, and then it goes through kind of the history of witchcraft up until that point. So it has people acting out different scenarios of what witches are purported to do, people being tempted by witches and other evil spirits, how to defeat them, following the monks that are trying to fight them off. It was interesting from a historical perspective. But then you can fast forward to 1999, where you have something like the Blair Witch Project. And in this one, you don't even see the witch. It's an unseen thing. Some people might even argue that the witch isn't even real in that movie. I have seen a take where it's just Josh and Mike luring Heather into the woods just to kill her, which I do think is an interesting take. You could definitely watch it that way. I don't subscribe to that particular theory, but I do think it's interesting, and it would make for a fun watch of the movie in a different way. But again, you have, the evil witch, and she had gone after children. And then here it is, hundreds of years later, these people being somewhere where they shouldn't be. It was a new take on some very established tropes. It's actually one of my favorite movies. I know it's a very, very divisive movie. You either love it or you hate it, and I get that. Like, the people that don't like it, I understand. I totally get why someone would not like that movie. But I'm in the other camp, so. And then we'll go into an interesting take like the original Suspiria from Dario Argento. That one's very colorful, and yes, it is about a coven of witches, but it's a very different, very Argento take on that. The witches have a dance academy, and then the students start experiencing weird things. Some of them may just accept the success that is coming with being a part of this, but others are like, no, this is very strange. I don't like what's going on. I know that the remake was pretty divisive. I'm a big fan of it, but I don't really compare the two. It's the same core story, but the directors both come at it from such different angles and ultimately tell such different stories, especially the way they end, and especially with where Susie Banion's character goes, that to me it's almost unfair to compare them. Yet I do understand why people are not a fan of the remake. But both movies are interesting in how they portray what a more modern witch or coven would look like. They're in plain sight. They're doing things for the community. No one would necessarily suspect that anything was going on, anything supernatural, whether it's nefarious or not. So that's just what I mean by you can do a lot where you can stick with the traditional, pointy hat and warts, or, she can be Tilda Swinton, just dancing. If you're looking for a more traditional movie that deals with witches, you can try The Witchfinder General. And this one stars Vincent Price, who is a personal favorite of mine. I have my Funko right there. He's always my answer when someone ever asks you, if you could have dinner with a celebrity, living or dead, who would it be? My answer is always Vincent. But in this one, he is the Witchfinder General. He has come to this town, village, and he's going to have an inquiry, and he's going to find who the witches are. But really, he's just someone there exerting and abusing his power. He's using his position to get what he wants from whoever he wants. And that's really it. And I think that really examines a lot of, if you compare it with the Salem witch trials, that is really the heart of some of what was going on. There were a lot of, political motivations, and a lot of it was just personal politics that just involved, maybe the mayor or the leader of that town who maybe had a personal grievance. A lot of them didn't, most of the politics there didn't go any further than that. It wasn't a grand scheme. It was just, I want that person's land, so I'm going to take it. You see a lot of that kind of stuff in Witchfinder General. There's also the Robert Eggers movie, The Witch. Again, another divisive one that I also really like. Again, I get when it's not someone else's cup of tea. But this one, again, is a more traditional story. I know it was based on actual testimony that Eggers had researched, so he used the language of the time as well, just to further paint that picture. And here we have, essentially the family is torn apart just by tragedy and paranoia. I mean, you could even argue if the witch is real in that movie. I believe she is, because there is a scene where we do see her, and I don't really know how you could have that scene in there if it was all supposed to be questionably real. But it's really about how we can tear ourselves apart through paranoia of things we don't understand. Always a relevant topic, unfortunately. And then we have fun movies like The Craft. I'm not saying that one doesn't get darker, because it does. We all know, if you've seen it, you know the turn that it takes, where it just kind of goes from, oh, we're just kind of having fun and, oh, having sleepovers and changing our hair color, to this got real dark real fast, and it's having severe effects on people. It has a great 90s vibe. And of course, the cast. Fairuza Balk, who I kind of feel like I've grown up with her. I think she's a little older than I am, but we're roughly the same age. Robin Tunney, Ski Ulrich is in it, Rachel True is in it, and of course, Neve Campbell's in it. For me, it was a movie that kind of came out at the right time. I was in college. I'm really, really aging myself here. It's fun, but again, it has that message of absolute power corrupts absolutely. Not everybody should be endowed with that power. One I don't see talked about a lot is Eve's Bayou. And this one deals with the more hoodoo aspect when we're talking about magic. That's not something I know a whole lot about. But the movie, it's this very Southern Gothic. You have Samuel L. Jackson is in it. Journey Smollett is in it. She carries the movie, and she was very young at the time. And you also have Diane Carroll, Vondie Curtis Hall. It's a very, very well-rounded cast. And I feel bad that this one tends to get overlooked. Samuel L. Jackson's character learns that you do not mess with very powerful, magical women. But it's also a story about family. So if you haven't seen that one, I highly encourage that you do. And one that I like that kind of blends modern with the traditional is The Autopsy of Jane Doe, where it takes place in modern times. You have a father and a son who are coroners, and they're doing an autopsy on this woman who nobody knows who she is. And they uncover the mystery of who she is as they go further and further along in their investigation. I don't want to say too much without getting into spoilers, but considering what I've already said, you can probably figure out who and what she is. So I thought that was a good one of kind of marrying both aspects. And there's also the 2017 movie Pyewacket. You have angry teenage girl. She's just moved into a new place with her mom. She doesn't want to be there. One night her mom says something particularly nasty to her, and this young girl decides that she is going to invoke the spirit of this witch, or really demon, to help her. Again, kind of a new world, old world connection. The last one I'll mention is Black Sunday, which is a Mario Bava film. Beautifully shot film. This is from 1960. And this one is a more traditional. It starts with a quote-unquote witch being burned at the stake, being awakened sometime later, and then seeking revenge on those in her family's castle. This film helped usher in the horror boom that Italy would have going forward through the 70s and into the early 80s, especially with Giallo. This isn't Giallo, but it kind of gave a kickstart to the overall horror genre being done in Italy. And for that, I am very thankful. So I know I went over them very quickly, but these are just a few suggestions. I personally liked all of these, so I know it's a very random collection. I'm not even saying any of them are the best. These are just some that I liked, because it's very hard when you have so many movies that are about witches, some of which take a more sympathetic view and some which are the more traditional view. Some of them have the, okay, good for her, and then some of them are just, nope, she's bad, she's done, that's it. So you can pick one of these or just see what you can find, but it would be a good night to settle down with a good old-fashioned movie about witches. Now, witches can symbolize a lot of the outcasts of society. Like I said before, society always kind of needs a boogeyman to go after, or just so some people can just feel better about themselves, whatever the reasoning is. Witches are usually the outsiders. It's why they get singled out. Most of the time, that's the only reason they're persecuted. They're just different. They're not doing what everyone else is doing. They're not harming anybody, but they're not the same. And as I mentioned before, the only reason I've even dived this deep into Walpurgisnacht is because of The Last Drive-In. For anyone who has watched my videos before, and when I say that I am a drive-in mutant, that is what we call ourselves as fans of The Last Drive-In and of Joe Bob Briggs. And what's important is that this is a community of people who kind of feel like we're on the outside for a variety of reasons. It could just be because we like, quote unquote, weird movies or just stuff that other people don't like. Sometimes it's for other more serious reasons. But it's a community that we have all, built around just having fun, watching these movies, enjoying something that isn't for everybody, but we like it just fine. So on this Walpurgisnacht, I just wanted to say a big thank you to my mutant fam. I've had fun meeting some at conventions or talking about stuff online. I've found a lot of great new movies to watch, had some great conversations, some great laughs, and it's just really been fun to know that there's a place I can go and you talk about this movie that I know isn't for everyone, but I'm going to find someone who sees the value in it just like I do and isn't going to look at me like the witch who needs to be burned. So it has been a great experience. It's a community I appreciate a lot. It took me a long time to kind of dig into my weirdness and just say, this is me, and if you don't like it, well, suck it. The mutant family helped me do that. So thank you guys. I love you guys. I just wanted to give you a little shout out. And having said that, I do have to give a big shout out to Joe Bob Briggs himself. I've been lucky enough to meet him a couple times. He is always very gracious, always taking the time, to talk to people, hear people, and just let everyone know that if you want to be here, this place is for you. We don't judge. I just think that's very important, especially now. I wouldn't be doing these videos if it were not for him. Any of us in the Mutant fam know about his fuck aspiring speech, and that inspired me. It's why I started with my blog. I said, you know what? Forget that. I'm a writer. And I just started writing movie reviews, which you can find on horrormatters.blog. I know I'm not the world's greatest writer, and that's not my point. I just want to write about something that I'm passionate about. Same thing with this channel. Would I like to make a few bucks? Sure. But I'm doing this because I enjoy it. I enjoy sharing. I enjoy interacting with my fellow mutants, with other horror fans, with whoever wants to interact with me and talk about these movies that I love. So I am forever grateful for that speech and for the community that he has helped create. And Darcy too. She's amazing. I couldn't leave her out. So everybody have a drink tonight for Walpurgisnacht. Watch a witch movie. Maybe something you haven't seen. Maybe one of the ones I've mentioned if you haven't seen one of them. Have some mead. I don't know. Then tomorrow is May Day, so you guys better be watching The Wicker Man. Unfortunately, I won't be because I will be out of town. I'm kind of bummed, so I might bump that up to Walpurgisnacht and cheat a little bit. So thank you for letting me ramble about witches and movies and a little bit of my personal journey. I appreciate it. In the meantime, you can like, subscribe, share, put a comment. You can visit horrormatters.blog if you're so inclined. And I will see you next time. But remember, like what you like, don't be a dick. And as always, be good to one another, take one day at a time, and do the best you can.